Earlier this summer, the Tri-City saw the arrival of its first tent city, an encampment that formed outside of 3030 Gordon, the only homeless shelter located in the Tri-Cities, on the border of Coquitlam and Port Coquitlam. At a recent meeting of Port Coquitlam City Council, Councillors Dean Washington and Darryll Penner spoke on the issue in a manner that reflected their frustration in the lack of resolution to the matter. But many also feel that their comments were at the very least unhelpful, and for the most part beneath their position as city councillors, who should show compassion for all of their constituents.
The amount of, like, whatever you want to call them, I don't use the word homeless. I would use the term people that don't want to work. So I've been shocked at how many new people that don't want to work are in the downtown. And, you know, noting that we used to have a decent presence in the downtown, especially in the summertime.
What do you call them, homeless or unhoused or what was the word used?
Don't want to work.
Don't want to work. Okay.
I won't say what I said in a closed meeting.
Okay.
Because it might get me unelected.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with those terms.
Okay, so for instance, 3030 Gordon is a government-funded crack house. They come in there, they can do whatever they want, use all the drugs they want, and it's being funded by the government.
In response to these comments, concerned Port Coquitlam residents came out to a coffee and conversations event that was held on October 6th in front of Port Coquitlam City Hall. Those in attendance heard from speakers such as Reverend Cathcart from Trinity United Church in Port Coquitlam, and Christina Gower, a psychiatric nurse with years of experience at Royal Columbian Hospital. Many of those who came out to express their concerns also contributed to a community poster that lay out exactly what people thought was helpful and not helpful to resolving the issue. Of course, Tri-City's community TV was there and brings you this coverage.
I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming out today and showing that you care. This event was put together by some community members, Jane, Ben, Rob, and myself, just to try and start a conversation in response to some quite appalling comments we heard coming from Port Coquitlam City Councillors recently when it comes to people who are experiencing homelessness, and we know that there's many connecting issues and that it's not simply a matter of people who don't want to work. So we're here to talk a little bit about that today. We're hoping to hear your comments and your ideas for a more compassionate and pragmatic path forward. Before we get started and introduce our speakers, I'd just like to acknowledge that our gathering here today is taking place on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of Coquitlam First Nation. So we thank the Coquitlam who continue to live on these lands and to care for the lands and the waters and all that lies above and below. I would like to just lay out a little bit about what's going to happen here. We're going to have a couple of wonderful speakers, and I'll introduce them shortly. We also have free coffee, so please help yourself, and we'd like to thank Jane for organizing that. Also, we have some feedback, opportunity for you to provide feedback here, just some sticky tabs about things that you think would be helpful in addressing the current crises, and also some things that you think are really not very helpful. So this can be a message that we send back to Mayor and Council to let them know that, you know, we see that there might be a different path that many of us want to go down here. So I just want to once again thank you all for coming, and I'd like to introduce our first speaker, who is Reverend David Cathcart. Reverend Cathcart is the Reverend at Trinity United Church in Port Coquitlam. He's done some incredible work, some frontlines work, some really good social justice issues, and he's really been out there trying to make change for the better. So you're getting applause. Yeah. So if I could invite you to come up, Reverend, and just if you could share some thoughts and insights with us.
So first of all, thank you for coming out. We've offered at Trinity we were extreme weather shelter for a couple decades, and then through COVID that changed. We did a different model for the extreme weather shelter, and we started doing the winter shelter. And sometimes it feels like we're all alone. So thank you for being here, because I have this confidence in human beings, and I'd like to think that Port Coquitlam cares. But when I hear comments like I hear from my city council 2 weeks ago, it feels like I'm fighting city council to do the little tiny bit of work that we're able to do. I would love to see us raise the discourse. I would love to hear us have real conversation about solutions. Everybody likes to throw their hands up and say, oh, it's so complicated. Oh, it's so complex. There's more than one crisis going on here, and there are multiple crises that are intersecting that makes it even worse. But there are also best practices. And every one of our service organizations has a list of best practices. Fraser Health has a list of best practices. If we followed best practices, we might get the best results. But we don't. Instead, we get city councillors calling names. And I think that needs to change. The crisis that we're in the middle of is 40 years in the making, and it's going to take all of us doing our part as private citizens. That means no more not in my backyard attitudes, because it needs to happen where it needs to happen. And we need the supports where the supports are going to make the most impact. And that means about, when we want to build affordable housing, we can't be fighting that, because we need it. We desperately need affordable housing. And so gratitude for the housing that is being developed. It's still not enough. It's still too expensive for a lot of the folks that we're talking about here today. They'll have no access to that kind of housing. And it's useless if it doesn't come with wraparound supports. We need wraparound supports to support people in the housing once they get there. I hear a lot about, open up Riverview again, right? And that's useless. That's useless if we don't have the supports in the community. We really need to care for folks while they're still in their homes. So thank you very much. I'm really glad that everybody is here, and God bless.
So many thanks to Reverend Cathcart for the good work that he's doing in the community, and I think he highlights the fact that we all need to be involved. It involves every single one of us here, and just as human beings, that we need to lift each other up. We don't need the hate, we don't need the judgment. We need a path forward, one that shows some compassion, and one that we can actually do. So each level of government has a responsibility here, and I think we need to hold them accountable. Next up, we have Christina Gower. Christina has a lot of experience. She's a psychiatric nurse at Royal Columbian Hospital. And Christina, if you could come up and just share your thoughts with us. Thank you.
So I'll begin with, I'm disorganized right now and tired. So apologies in advance if I seem to be all over the place, and I know that I do talk fast. So if you want me to stop and explain something further, please tell me, and I will. So I've been a long-time advocate for mental health. It's the reason I became a psych nurse. I was upset about the closure of Riverview, and I just kept thinking, where will these people go? And Riverview, I agree, is not a complete answer, because we don't want people to stall there and never leave. But it is a community, and without a sense of community, there's no hope. There's no connection. Connection is the opposite of addiction, folks. And I got to tell you that homelessness is not necessarily based in addiction either. That's a misunderstood thing that people don't realize. I actually organized the first housing rally in British Columbia. My signs are in the Vancouver Museum. They kept them. And I did that because working in the ER, I started to see, I just wanted to be a mental health advocate, okay? But I started to see people come in that were elderly and their spouse passed away, and now they can't afford their taxes anymore because they're on one pension, and they're suicidal, and they're living in their car, and they've got a dog with them, and that's all they've got in their life. And I started to become very aware very quickly of the breadth of the impact on our society, and it really does come from the basic necessities of health, which is, your safety first, is your housing. You need a starting off point. If you don't have somewhere safe to lay your head at night and rest your mind, you will not be able to function in the rest of your life. I challenge any of you, just go camping. Just go camping, guys. You know how you feel after camping? It's kind of exhausting. We love it. It's also wonderful for your spirit. But it's exhausting, and it's a lot of work just to get your basic needs met. So we must learn from that, okay? We must be compassionate towards people and understand that our social safety nets have been disintegrating after, you say 40 years, I say 60. It's been, a depletion, over my lifetime. I'm 53 this month. So I've seen, free physiotherapy go away. I've seen free chiropractic go away. I've seen, user fees instated. I've seen incomes relative to housing costs absolutely widen astronomically. And that is the biggest factor, for sure, when it comes to housing. But we're talking about people that hit problems in their lifetime that can happen to anybody, okay? If everybody likes to, go the drug route, so we'll talk about it. Let's talk about it. So about 65% of our overdose deaths start with construction work, believe it or not. Somebody gets injured. They're using their body for hard labor, okay? And then they have pain. And then they need something to treat that pain because they need to go to work, because they need to pay bills so that they can keep the shelter over their head. And what happens is they end up getting drugs from the street to keep them going, because your brain keeps expanding all these different cells and receptors that need more and more and more to be able to control your pain. That's where it starts, guys, a lot of it. And we have no program in place for that. Nothing. Our construction companies should have people on staff. They're safety officers. Why are they not trained in kinesiology and helping people, do a warm-up every day even? Like, just something. There's so many things that could be done in a preventative fashion for your health. Long-term disability. There's not enough money to live off of. Just start with that. So, people end up on that. I can talk about nursing. I mean, we have psychological trauma. We have vicarious trauma through the things that we see. We're assaulted every day, like every day. I've had murderers threaten to kill me multiple, and I'm talking plural, okay? And very, very credible threat to my own safety. And when I go to WCB and say, listen, I'm terrified to go to work, they say, okay, well, 6 to 9 months from now, you can have a psych eval. Until then, you're not getting paid. So go to work. Okay, there's so many injustices, and that's kind of besides the point, but I'm just saying they're taking it bit by bit by bit through our society and taking away and taking away and taking away. And there's people working behind me on the taxpayer dollar. I get paid by taxpayers, so I'm not judgmental here, but these guys are also need to serve everybody. I serve everybody. They need to serve everybody. I want to talk about one more thing, and it's kind of an overarching umbrella ideology. And I want to talk about how we look to our south and we look to the States and we look to the, identity politics and the divisiveness and the hatred. And we see it becoming pervasive in our own society. And I just want you all to be careful and observant and loving and kind. I want you to continue to be Canadian. I want you to understand that we cannot allow ourselves to be sucked into a culture that is intolerant of other people that are less fortunate. Okay? We have to be very, very careful. All right? People that, we all work for wherever. I don't get we get to bargain. I'm in a union. Okay? These guys got to vote themselves a 12.5% raise, which is about $13,000 a year to cover their increased cost of living. But we don't all have that either. So the insensitivity that we've seen and the comments made with the officer, the RCMP member, were along the lines of making people so uncomfortable that they move on, harassing people so that they move on. Okay, and they're trying to instruct the police how to do their job when the police are actually trained to de-escalate and to build trust and rapport with the community so that everybody is safer. So they're safe, so the people on the streets are safe. We're not having officer-involved shootings. I could just go on over and over and over everything that was said and just pick it apart. But if I can just compel the public that sees this and thinks about it, use your vote, all right? Use your vote for people that care about you and not just themselves. And that's how I'm going to end it.
Thank you so much, Christina. We are so happy to have you back as an activist in our community, and great to see you. Yeah. My name's Jane. I'm not a psych nurse. I'm not a reverend. I don't work in line with what we're talking about today, but I am a person who really cares about people. And during COVID, there was, I had 3 little kids, and schools were closed, and I didn't really know what to do with them. And I thought to myself, what can I do that will sort of still teach them something and that I can actually help with? And we started with something really simple. We got in touch with Spirit Bear Coffee. It is the first Indigenous owned coffee right here in Poco. And I said, would you mind if you helped us and donated some coffee that we would make? And then we would go to some vulnerable areas and ask people if they'd like a cup of coffee. It was that simple, not complicated. The conversations we ended up having with these people and the delight on their face for us to give them a simple cup of coffee was amazing and such a good learning experience, not just for my kids, but for me as well. We had people that would say, oh, thank goodness you're here. I just came back. All my stuff's been stolen. I had a one-way bus ticket. I can't afford anywhere to stay, and this is where I am. And my brother-in-law is another example. He suffers intensely from mental illness, and I don't know where he is right now. You know, these are not people that don't want to work. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to share the comments in case you didn't hear them. These guys describe them as, I wouldn't describe them as homeless, I would describe them as people who don't want to work. They described, shameful, they described 3030 Gordon as a government-funded crack house. And years ago, Brad West described people in Lions Park that didn't have a home as deadbeats. And these are elected officials and not people that I think should be representing their constituents. They certainly aren't representing their constituents. These people are their constituents, and they have no access to simple things like drinking water, a place to go to the washroom, a place to get something to eat or have a roof over their head. So behind Nancy, there is a table of what is not helpful, what is helpful, some comments that we're really hopeful that you can all come and drop by and write what you think is helpful, what's not helpful. And we're going to send this to Mayor and Council to let them know that we're listening and we've had it. This is not acceptable. And we have a provincial election coming up. I do know we have some people here today that are running in the provincial election. I'll introduce you. I know we got Adam. Who else do we have? Sorry. Keenan? Yes, nice to see you. Yeah. And have a word with them. I mean, if you guys want to get elected, we'd love to hear your thoughts too on what we can do about resolving this situation. So, did you want to come up and say something? That'd be great. And yourself as well. We have potential officials here. Come on up.
Thank you. Yeah, I want to start by thanking everybody who's out here today. Myself as well, I'm sure all of us, I was disgusted by the comments made by our council. And I think when it comes to addiction, when it comes to homelessness, we need to lead our first foot with compassion. We need to go and meet people at the level they're at. We need to give voluntary care. We need to give resources. People, when we hear comments about people who don't want to go get a job, you can't get a job without a bank account. You can't get a bank account without an address. You can't get an address without a lot of money nowadays. Not easy. So people are so disconnected. They are so lost on this issue that they can even make comments like that without thinking through the struggles people have. And I don't want to get political. I don't want to be here giving a campaign speech. But I do want to say that anybody we elect into office needs to come with compassion. Regardless of party, regardless of position, everybody deserves respect. And that's what we all need to do. We're all here today to show that we care about our neighbors, whether they have a house or they don't. And I just want to thank everybody again for coming out. And let's start with compassion. Thank you.
Hi everybody, I'm Keenan Adams. I came here to listen and hear the other side, have an open mind. I've dealt with addiction, alcoholism in my own family, people very close to me. And so I have a heavy heart. I go down to 3030 Gordon Ave and meet people, and I know there's some hard workers down there. So those comments weren't true about everyone at all. I'd like to hear any ideas. I agree that we just got to get a roof over these people's head and more services. And I'm here with compassion and love in my heart too, and I'm willing to talk to anybody. And I'm willing to have a different look on things and a different path. So thank you for having me. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you everyone again for coming out. I think we've heard some really interesting and insightful comments. Hopefully lots of ground for conversation and a path forward. Again, we invite you to come and leave your comments. Let's find a way forward. We can do this. We can move forward with compassion. We don't need to see people unhoused and struggling by themselves. We've got too many brothers and sisters and friends and others out on the street that shouldn't be there on their own. They need that compassion from us. So that's our first step. We just want to start the conversation here. We don't know where this is going to lead, but put your comments there, and I hope we can keep in touch, and we'll take the next step. Thanks again. Gratitude to everyone. We're in front of Port Coquitlam City Hall, and I'm with Jeremy Johnson. And Jeremy, would you like to share some thoughts on the rally today and some follow-up you had with City Council?
Yes, so I learned about the rally, and I'm glad I came, and I found it very good conversation was had. So I've spoken with city council members. I've spoken with Councillor Penner and Councillor Washington, and Councillor Penner did apologize to me personally, but Councillor Washington this past Wednesday, he said he stood by his comments 100%.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're very welcome.
I'm here with Susan Lynn. And Susan, would you like to tell us a little bit about your experiences?
Yes. I've been watching over the last decade the treatment of the homeless people here in Port Coquitlam and the bullying that they've had dealing with City Hall staff members, mainly the bylaw officers, how they've chased them all out of this park. And this park was so important to them. It's how they connected. Not everybody has a phone. Right. But they know if Bob comes to the park and he comes 3 days a week and Bob doesn't show up, somebody goes and checks on Bob. And unfortunately, it has happened several times that I know of that they've had to go check on somebody and that they have passed.
Oh, how sad.
Right? I have watched, I don't live in this community. I live in Abbotsford, but my sister-in-law is part of the mental health community. She just lives over in the McAllister apartments. And we used to spend all day here in the park when I used to come visit. Well, she would spend all day here. And whenever I came, I made sure everybody got a drink, whether it was a cold one on a hot summer day or a hot one on a winter day. Made sure everybody got a hot meal. Or maybe a cold meal because the deli gave me really good deals on sandwiches, right? So I'd go get sandwiches or pizza or whatever just to make sure people had a meal, right? I think that society can be judged on how you treat your homeless, your disabled, and your veterans, and Canada's failing.
Well, thank you, Susan, and thank you so much for all that you've done.
Oh, you're very welcome. I believe in make tiny changes. Go Frighten Rabbit.
Thank you so much.